Greetings. Last time I stopped the video of the lecture for this chapter midway because of the fact that um, we I thought I was going to run out of time. I think I had a little more time than I realized, but at the same time, that's fine. This is broken into two. Ad hominem is basically an argument against the man. It's Latin for attacking the man or against the man, and basically the idea is you kill the messenger rather than bothering to deal with their message. You try to discredit the person. Essentially, what happens is you're trying to say, hey, this person's bad, I don't want anything to do with them, so don't believe what they're saying. And so, one of the types is what we call an ad hominem abusive. Once again, there are various types here, and you don't have to know all the types, just the idea that an ad hominem personal or abusive versus ad hominem circumstantial, you can at least see the differences and realize that it's all part of this category of ad hominem. Now, an ad hominem abusive is basically where you attack a person on a personal level. That's why they sometimes also call an ad hominem personal. And essentially you do some name calling and you say, this person's bad, I hate him, so don't believe him. Ted is an idiot, don't listen to him. Essentially an ad hominem abusive is where you attack the person. You say, hey, this person's cool, this person's a jerk, this person lied to me, this person stole, don't believe him. Now, sometimes that is relevant. If it's like, should we trust them to be in this position? Should we trust them to do this? But if it's simply trying to discredit them without any real reason, that's not acceptable. It's not really an argument. And one of the reasons I would say is, one of the things I've learned in life and working is that sometimes the people who are, the best workers to be around, sometimes the people who are the best workers are sometimes the people who are also the least you want to hang out with after work because they're jerks or whatever else. And sometimes the people who are the nicest people are people who they don't really do that great of a job work-wise. And if push came to shove, if you had to do a project and it was going to be hard and it was going to be difficult and you were going to have to do it, you would probably pick the people who are jerks, and you can't stand them over the people who are really good. Ad hominem circumstantial. An ad hominem circumstantial is where essentially instead of it's basically where you take the person's situation, circumstances to try to discredit them. You just attack who they associate with, you attack their circumstances, where they belong to, etc. One example is John May dismissed Paul Warren. He's a rabid Republican and he can't be trusted. There you're trying to dismiss him because it's a circumstance. Not to say attack on him personally, it's an attack on what he is or the groups he belongs to. Another example of an ad hominem circumstantial I usually use is like a catch-22. Catch-22 is a book, but essentially catch-22 is the idea of you can't do something because you've not done it before. Sometimes when you get out and you want to get a job, they'll say, well, you don't have any experience, or you haven't done this, so we don't want to hire you. And that's a catch-22. And there's a little bit of that's an ad hominem circumstantial because you've never done something you can't do. Another example of an ad hominem circumstantial might be, I always like to use an example, when people get married, used to, in the Catholic Church, you would have to go meet with a priest. Now they do marriage retreats and you meet with lay people or members of the church. But it used to be you'd meet with a priest, and sometimes people would say, well, I don't want to go meet with a priest, he's never been married. And so because he's in a situation of being unmarried, you're going to say that he can't offer this counsel. Now, that's a somewhat legitimate point, but the case is that 99% of marriage is not about anything other than relationships. And you don't have to be married to understand relationships. Everybody has relationships. They are different, and marriage relationships are different than others. But one has to at least say that, you have to learn about relationships before you can learn about other things. And so they can probably offer you relationship advice even if they have not been married. And the other is an ad hominem tu quoque, or you do it too. It's basically where somebody tries to say, don't believe him, they're a hypocrite. My doctor smokes, so I'm not going to listen to him telling me to stop. Well, the fact that he does it doesn't mean it's not good advice. fact that somebody's telling you to do something doesn't mean they're not right, even if they do practice it. Okay. Next category is an accident. Basically, it misapplies a general rule to a situation where this general rule shouldn't apply. There's always the exception to the rule, and this is essentially an accident that's not accepting the fair exceptions. You shouldn't break into someone's home, so just because you're stuck in the middle of nowhere in a blizzard doesn't mean we should break into that cabin. Okay? There's a vacant cabin, break in. The rule of no breaking and entering doesn't apply. You shouldn't run any stoplights, but, if you're trying to get to the hospital at 3 in the morning and there's no cars at the stoplight, you can run it, that's the kind of thing that an accident is. Straw man. A straw man is basically you create a weak version of your opponent's argument in order to easily dismiss it. I always think of the big bad wolf. You had the straw house was the easiest for him to blow over, because it was made of straw. It was simple, it was easy, he could blow hard and it went over. And essentially this is what you're doing, but the opponent's argument isn't being represented accurately. You're actually misrepresenting it in order to blow it over easily, like a big bad wolf. An example is if you've ever said, I didn't say that, or you're misinterpreting what I said, or you know what, that's not it. People do that all the time during an argument when they're having a disagreement with somebody. And essentially what you're doing is you're suggesting somebody has made a straw man out of your argument. They're saying you said something you didn't, and they're saying it because it's easy to dismiss it. Another example is he's against prayer in school. Obviously he's from atheistic state. Atheistic states suppress their people. Communist Russia did it, blah, blah, blah. So we can't accept his argument against prayer in school. Essentially, they're misrepresenting it. Because you're against prayer in school, because you're against organized prayer in school, isn't the same as promoting an atheistic state. It's not saying you can't pray. It's just saying, that I don't agree with prayer in school. If you want to pray in your own time, you want to join a church, etc., that's fine. Missing the point. Basically, missing the point is where you have a bunch of evidence, but the conclusion isn't really supported by it. Oftentimes what happens is you have evidence, but oftentimes either they say, oh, well, then that's what we need to do, or or they say something way out of line, like crime's been increasing at an alarming rate, we need to reinstate the death penalty. Okay, where did the death penalty come out of that? That's not necessarily it. That's sort of going 3 steps beyond what it is. Crime's increasing. Doesn't mean we need the death penalty. It means we need to deal with crime. Maybe that's part of it, but that's not supported by the premises there. That's kind of missing the whole point of it. Sometimes you've heard people probably have a conversation, and somebody's talking, they're telling you, we really got to deal with, this problem at the house, and, also, the lawn needs mowed, but the basement's flooding, and the electricity's out, and blah blah blah. And the person says, you know what, I'll mow the lawn because we need to get on that. Well, you're kind of missing the point. That's not the most important thing. I'm just pointing out some of the stuff that needs done. You may have to make the point sort of in the whole thing. You're not getting to the main thing that needs to be done. A red herring. Oops, sorry. A red herring is the last one. A red herring, I always like to point out, is a fish. A herring is a fish, and fish typically smell. And so a red herring is essentially a smelly fish. And so one way to mask an odor is to give another odor that's stronger. The idea, you've seen old movies where somebody's running from the police, and they're running from the police, and they get out in the middle of nowhere, and they get out in the middle of nowhere, and if they get something else to throw the dogs, the hounds off their scent. They're running from prisoners, they throw, like they get a smelly fish, and they run across their path, and the dogs lose their scent. It's a smoke screen. And so essentially that's what a red herring is as an argument. It's an attempt to get people off the subject. very simple red herring could be somebody's asked you a question about your relationships, and you say, how about those Bulls? You watching the baseball playoffs or whatever, right? Those would be examples of red herrings. They're just simply introducing everything. Politicians oftentimes are very adept at this. They're very good at it. Like, for example, you ask them about education spending, and they say, you've asked about education spending. Well, it's important. There are a lot of things that are important. Spending on national defense, upon this and that, is very serious, and we need to take the serious things seriously and spend more on those, such as national defense. Depending on how well they do, they could answer at the end and you go, that's not a bad answer. And a lot of times, though, the people who ask it go, that's not a bad answer, but did they answer my question? And that's what a red herring is. A good red herring essentially takes what you've asked them and throws them off the trail. Essentially, there's a movie called North by Northwest. It's an Alfred Hitchcock movie, and basically, the main actor, he gets, I wanted to say it was, I think it was Cary Grant, but it may have been Jimmy Stewart. I forget who it was. It was one of those two. And essentially, he gets mistaken for a spy, and so because he's mistaken for a spy, they begin to chase him. These people who are, like part of the spy network, are trying to chase him down because they think he's not a spy, but they think he's part of the FBI or whatever, and or CIA or whatever. He's spying on them, and they're trying to get secrets out of the country, and so they're going to try to kill him. And ends up the spy is somebody else. They've infiltrated the organization. Working. But the espionage group says, well, let him chase him down, let him kill him, because then it'll throw off all suspicion on our actual spy. And so, he starts, sort of trying to figure out who's looking for him and why. And he goes on this trip that goes across the country. It starts in like New York and ends at Mount Rushmore in South Dakota. And essentially, he gets to that point and he says, at some point during it, he realizes what's going on, that he's just a red herring for this. He's a smokescreen. He's trying to throw him off the trail. And he says, I won't be a red herring for anybody. And I always like that line. It always reminds me of this. And that's what it is. Somebody else is being looked at as the spy. The invasion of Normandy, D-Day. The idea was, they sent somebody else. He sent troops ashore in other areas, sent planes to other areas, because they knew that it would mislead the Germans in thinking the attack was coming somewhere else, and they'd be able to do better. They'd move the troops around to a different area, and it would be a red herring. Alright, well, those are the fallacies, and I want to make one last note. Sometimes these fallacies, just like with other things, they can sometimes be categorized into more than one category. Sometimes a red herring may also appear to be missing the point, and so on and so forth. The key is you recognize that there's a fallacy. Typically, you should be able to pick out which one, but the way I'm going to do the homework as well as the quizzes is I'm not going to just have one right answer. I'm going to have a blank where you enter the answer you want to answer, but then you take that answer and you tell me why you think it's that. I think it's a red herring because he is not addressing the question. He's trying to send them in another direction, create a smokescreen. I think he's missing the point because the point of this is this, and he's talking about that. So that would explain the confusion. And that way, even if you don't give the answer that I have, I can still evaluate it and say, okay, they understand the concept and they realize there's a problem. So I'll realize that if you don't understand the concept, you won't be able to explain it right. But that's the whole point. I want you to be able to not just do that, but to explain it. And that's because all these don't always fall clearly in one category or another. Okay, thanks and good luck.